Hi, everyone. Welcome to Empowered Expressions. I have the most special guest today, and I've got this great intro. Are you ready? So, Julie Macdonald is a former long-distance swimmer, a freestyle swimmer. She won bronze medal in the 800 metres freestyle at the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul and the 1986 Com Games in Edinburgh. She won a silver for 800 freestyle, and in 1987 at the Pan Pacs or the Pan Pacifics, she won gold and silver in the 800 and 400 metre and set an 800 metre freestyle record, a Commonwealth record of 8 minutes, 23.18 seconds, which I believe stood for 21 years, which is awesome. And June 2006, she also won the Queen on a Queen's Birthday Award and was awarded an OAM, which I love saying, for her services to swimming, the Olympic movement and charities. Please welcome Julie Macdonald.
Thanks, Suze.
You're most welcome. I've got to tell you, I was a swimmer at school and I never watched sport. I'm never into football. I used to work with football as a makeup artist, never watched the football, never into cricket or anything like that. But the one thing that I watched every year without fail was Com Games and the Olympic Games swimming. I watched swimming. Yep. I watched you on all your races in the pool, and you were really up there for me. You and Tracy Wickham and Lisa Curry. And I would watch you guys and cheer you guys along. And I'm sure this happens with a lot of people. And then I'd be back in the pool swimming. You know, it was really just back in the pool.
Yep.
And it was just so inspiring. You were and still are such an amazing role model for women then and women now. And I'm very proud that, to call you my friend. So we're friends, everyone. I think we were talking earlier and I said, do you remember where we met? It's like, nah. But when we did meet, we just hit it off so well. Sometimes you meet people and you just have this instantaneous bond. And Julie and I had an instantaneous bond. And when I was looking up stuff to talk to you about, I'm going to say it, I looked on Wikipedia. And Wikipedia, among other things, among all these wonderful things, says that Julie was known as an outspoken and controversial swimmer. So, of course, we have to cover why you were known or why that's on Wikipedia. What was outspoken and controversial about you?
Because I told the truth, I told what I thought, and was really, and I had the influence of a coach that really was outspoken and controversial. So I think I felt that it was the thing to do, and why not be honest, I guess. And people, not a lot of people like honesty, but the particular thing that they talk about is that is that at the Commonwealth Games 1990, my main opposition was chosen to walk out at the opening ceremony in this beautiful green swimsuit with I want to say it's I don't know what to call it. It was a flowing cover, but it didn't cover her, so you could see, her in a swimsuit with this
like a cape thing.
Cape, that's the word I was trying to get out. This cape, and she was to represent the what was it? She was to represent the typical Australian, and there was another swimmer who, at the media press, said made a comment about it, and the media, of course, assumed it was me. And when they turned around and interviewed me, I said, look, in my opinion, I think Susie O'Neill is the typical Australian. If you go by looks, because she's blonde, she's brown, and I just thought, I think Australian, I think beaches, right? When I think Australia, I think beaches, and anyway, so I was controversial and outspoken regarding that comment, and part of the comment was not made by me.
How old were you at the time?
20.
And I mean, we also stuff, we're finding ourselves in our 20s. And back then, the whole ad campaign about Australia was the blonde, blue-eyed, tanned Aussie, You had the men
And,
that were represented like that, the women that were represented like that. That's how we
yeah,
were presented to the
and
world.
that's it. And it wasn't that I thought I was the typical Australian. It wasn't. It was not that at all. I thought it was. I think Susie O'Neill. She beautiful, blonde. And so that was anyway. So the swimmer were concerned, and I are very good friends, and I I at the end of our career, well, probably it was a little bit longer it was a bit later in our life. Probably about 15 years ago, she moved to Queensland, and I went up and I said to her, "Can I come up and see you?" And we'd sort of had a bit of a rocky, like we didn't really have a friendship, right? It was just we were main competitors, and there was a lot of press about us all the time, um, and I went up to it. I went up the Sunshine Coast to see her, and I said, "Look, I just want to apologise if I've ever said anything that's offended you, or and because most of the time that in the newspapers, it was they would interview the coach, and it was the coach expressing what was going to happen in a few months' time at the competition, but it would be quoted that this girl and I would be actually quoted as saying it, but it was actually our coaches. So she knew that from her end that had happened, and I knew from my end that it happened, but I just sort of wanted to clear the air and just go, apologise for anything that I may have said that offended you.
That's a good
And so
idea
we're
to
really
do
good
that.
friends now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the funny thing about that is that her daughter is now a swimmer and broke a few of my records that I had, which I thought was adorable. And I was the first to ring her mother and say, "Well, how about that? Isn't that ironic?" And that's karma for you, right?
I love that. And you
It's
having
so
a
good.
record that stood for 21 years is huge. Like, that's massive. I mean, that was a fast swim you did that day. The
You know
preparation
what, Sue?
up to it and
Yeah,
your mindset in the pool and everything, like, it's one of those, I imagine one of those moments for you that everything went and clicked in.
yeah. That race in particular, the 87 Pan Pacs, Janet Evans, the American, had broken the world record 2 weeks before the competition when they had their trials, and the world record that had stood and the Commonwealth record was the same, and it had stood for 10 years. And anyway, she broke the world record, and the head coach came into our training camp and said, "Oh, Janet Evans has broken the world record." And I went, "Who's Janet Evans?" Because no one had heard of her. She was this 15-year-old kid that had come on the scene all of a sudden. And I never investigated who my opposition was. I never, went spying on anything that they did, or I was concentrating on myself and making sure that I'd done everything right. So I was like, oh, well, big deal. And so when they arrived, this tiny little girl rocks up beside me in the 400 freestyle, and I'm like, whoa, she's like half the size of me. And she was 45 kilos and I was 67 kilos. I am heavy boned, and I do have the DEXA scan to prove that. But I was just like, wow, this little girl, and just she flew. Anyway, by the time the Pan Pacs had come around, and the Pan Pacs were in Brisbane, right? So my hometown, and in the Chandler pool where I trained most of my life, and this is going to be great, and the 800 freestyle and the 400, at the end of the 400, I was catching her. And as the competition went on, as the week went on, you could tell that she was getting tired. She was little, she'd held the taper for 2 weeks. It's a long time to hold a taper. And if people don't know what a taper is, it is where, you train so hard for a length of period, and then a certain number of weeks out before your competition, you ease back on your training and you rest up, and that's the taper. So you're tapering off your training. Anyway, the 800 freestyle, the first 200 meters, she and I basically eyeballed each other, and I turned at the 200 meter mark, and I have never felt so good in the water in my life. And I just thought to myself, I'm going. I'm going to put the foot down and go and see how fast I can go. And I missed her new world record by zero point 0.7 of a second. And I'd broken the old world record and the Commonwealth record. So it was a fast swim for the times in the day. But the fact that it stood for 21 years, it was a reflection of Australian swimming and the women's distance freestyle in particular for the next 21 years. I broke it a year later at the Olympics, but it just showed that they went backwards. Records are supposed to be broken. And the fact that it took so long for them to break it was, it was something. I even was help mentoring an athlete that, I was trying to get it, you can break this. This is easy. You can do it, not easy, but you can do it. You've got the talent, you've got the training behind you. And she was the one that broke it.
Oh, excellent. Do you think
by point one of a second?
Well, wow, which is almost like a fingernail, isn't it?
Really? It is, yeah.
No. Do you think that maybe the coaches had stopped focusing on long distance swimmers and does that sort of kind of happen and they were just focusing on the sprinters? And I love that you didn't focus on anybody else, which is a great analogy for life as well, because we should never compare ourselves with anybody else. Comparison is death in anything, in business, personal life, in anything. If you compare yourself, you'll start losing faith in yourself. But if you just keep focusing on who you are and what you're doing and believe in yourself, that's how, that proof's in the pudding, isn't it? You move forward. But we didn't mention that you were with Laurie Lawrence, who was one of the greatest coaches, or what is the greatest coach in Australia, Laurie Lawrence? Or one of the greatest coaches. So he churned out a lot of champions, I remember when I moved to the Gold Coast, the number one thing I wanted for my baby was to swim in Laurie Lawrence's swim club. So the first thing I did was I booked him in a Mudgeeraba pool and popped him in the water, and we did Laurie Lawrence's, that's where he learned how to swim. That was really important to me. And then he got too big to touch the bottom of the pool. We had to go find a deep pool. But the way that coaches train, they're obviously paying attention to swimmers all around the world and what's going on.
Yes.
Did they change? How does it work?
So to answer your first question, what happened was in the early 90s, there was a coach who produced a very good distance male swimmer. And he totally turned on the head of what was normal for distance freestylers to do. And the majority of us would just do a lot of mileage, like a lot, 8 to 10 kilometers every session twice a day. And what he did was with his swimmer, he did more quality work, more speed and more quality in practice and less mileage. So all the coaches adopted this because it worked very well for this swimmer. But what it didn't do was it didn't suit women. Women who want to be distance freestylers had to do the mileage. And, they had to do the 80 to 100K a week. And so that's why for years and years and years, they weren't performing, and it was just, you got to have a coach that wants to be on pool deck for 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours at night to produce that swimmer, so I don't know whether they didn't think that their swimmer had the capacity to be able to swim that fast. Did they want to waste 3 hours, in the morning and night? And I don't know. It did my head in a little bit because I would go and talk to all the up and coming swimmers and, I would give them my email address and my phone number. And I said, if you want to have a look at my logbooks, this is my email, this is my phone number. I'd be happy to photograph my logbooks for you. So, because I recorded every session that I ever did. And do you know how many swimmers contacted me?
None.
No. Because I don't know whether they wanted to do 80 to 100 kilometres a week. It's a lot of training,
Weren't
when you,
beating and they weren't beating your times. I mean,
yeah,
interesting that were you all really pitted against each other as
yeah,
women? I'm talking about the women. So to me, that just says, okay, so they decided to focus on the men, and I could be completely wrong, but if you've got a training session that works for men to bring up their speed, you would think that you would concentrate and work out something that's going to be of equal value to the females. But obviously they didn't. They just kept doing the same old, same old.
no, they just thought it would work, and it didn't work. And we did have a lot of really good sprinters at the time. We did have new coaches come on board that, people like Shannon Rowlandson, who produced some really great sprinters. And then we had, the likes of Michael Bowl come on board. And he's still producing incredible athletes like Emma McKeon. And, Emma McKeon, her dad was her original coach, Ron. He was a medalist from the '84 Olympics, and he and his wife Suzi, they're both Olympians, and they had David and Emma, and David did very well a number of years ago, and then Emma's just gone leaps and bounds, and then when they got to the point where Ron thought they need to go and get more competition, and they need to go train with other people, and that's when she moved to Queensland, trained with Michael Bowl, and has continued to excel. So Michael Bowl's produced a lot of champions, and now Dean Boxall, who's coaching Ariana Titmus and a number of athletes. So Lani Pallister, who is the daughter of one of my biggest rivals that I had when I was swimming. So I think the coaches would look at their athletes and think, well, do I concentrate on the sprinters? Do I concentrate on the distance athletes? And I guess they have to make that call. And it depends, I guess, on what talent they've got in the pool.
Right. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
But it's easier to stand on the pool deck for an hour and a half than it is 3 hours.
I suppose. But to be a coach at that level, you would have to be really passionate about what you're doing, and you'd have to really, really love your athletes, really want to be there, just like be a coach with footballers and anyone else. It's about, you've got these amazing athletes in front of you, and it's your responsibility to give them the right nurturing, the right training, so that they can reach top, because you're going to benefit from that, not just them, but you are as a coach, And they get paid, don't they? They don't just stand there and do the thing. They get paid.
Yeah, and their incentive is that if their athletes are, I think at the top, top 5 in the world or something like that, I think they get, paid better from Australian swimming. So, or there's incentives involved. I don't know exactly all the ins and outs, but yeah, if you, and the same with the athletes, if you're top 3 in the world, you get more government grants and assistance, and obviously now, not in my day, but now they've got the opportunity of getting endorsements, and a lot more money to be made, with advertising and things like that.
There wasn't really any endorsements back when you were swimming, was there? There wasn't really any incentive to swim except that you win and you got a gold medal, and yay, we love you because you've won for our country. It wasn't like we got to make money out of all the countless years that you put in training and swimming and your family. And I imagine, well, I know that, your mum and dad are huge supporters and support really well, And I think even back then, when things did happen, it was for the men, not for the women.
When I swam, 92, it started to change a little bit. It was, and I was really lucky that, because I was ranked mostly in the top 3 in the world from 1986 to 92. I got given government grants and in an incentive program, and I got $5,000 a year.
And like much now, but it was a lot more back then.
It was not bad. It was not bad. And mum and dad let me keep that money. And so that I saved that money. And so I bought my first block of land when I retired from swimming with that money in the house that I still live in. So, that was great. And it allowed me to say that I swam because I loved it, not because of the money.
Yeah, yeah. But you should be, the thing is you're swimming in the morning, you're swimming in the afternoon, you're training in gyms, how are you supposed to hold down a regular 9 to 5 job? That's like an impossibility, really.
Yeah.
There's only so
But
many hours in the day, how do you support yourself?
well, I lived at home until I was till 1991. I was 21. I moved down the Gold Coast and trained down the Gold Coast with Laurie again, because he'd had a spell from 88 to 91 where he wasn't coaching any elite athletes. And I heard that there was one of my old training partners had gone down to Laurie to ask him to train him for the Barcelona Olympics. So I said, well, I'm going to come down too. And so, I was really determined not to ask mum and dad for money. And I rented a house with a couple of girls that were training with me for a little while. And then after I made the Olympic team and they didn't, I moved into a place by myself, a townhouse. And I remember one day going, because I used to always go to the bank first to see how much money I had before I went to the grocery store, right? This is before technology, before there was internet
Mobile
banking.
phones. Yeah.
No mobile phones, no internet banking. And so I went to the ATM machine. I had 0, 0, 0 in my account. And I just remember running back to my apartment, and I ran past the manager, and I was crying, and he came out of his office and yelled at me and said, "Julie, come back here." And so I tail between my legs, went back to him, and he goes, "What's the matter?" And I said, "I've got no money to buy groceries." And he goes, "How much do you need?" And I said, No, I'll be okay. And he goes, "I'll give you $100, and when your money comes in, you pay me back." And I said, "Okay." And so I went, and he gave me $100, and I went and bought my groceries and things like that. And, I rode my push bike to the pool because, I didn't have a car. I got sponsored a car for a couple of months, and then they decided to change their minds. So it had its challenges that year. But you know what? I was really determined to prove that I could do it myself. And that year I'd actually earned $7,000 a year from my government grant. And so that's what I lived off, and it it was good for me to do that in a way, because I just didn't want to rely on mum and dad. And then, after the Barcelona Olympics, I got engaged, and then that's when I bought my land for this place, and got married, and built my house, and then I made a comeback in 95. And that was a totally different experience, because I had a mortgage. I had to get a part-time job, so for me, that was, I was like, I think they call it like a Girl Friday or something. I was just I loved it, because I'm that type of person. I love data entry. So I got to do data entry. I don't know what it is. I love data entry. And I just, and that's what I did. And I helped at this company. And, the gentleman actually probably just gave me money just for showing my face. Not so much for the work I did, but he was a big swimming fan. So yeah, and a friend of the family. So I really appreciated his generosity.
Wow. So I don't think people realize what it takes sometimes to be
Yeah.
number one at anything, or to be at the elite level. I mean, we often see, well, what we do see is we see footballers behaving badly, getting massive paychecks now, and, getting cars given to them, and, behaving badly. And
Did he ever behave badly?
yeah, no, we don't see a lot of a lot of endorsements. We don't see behind what happens and how you become an elite athlete. You know, many people wouldn't have known that you didn't have enough money to eat. And to be an athlete, it's about fueling your body. You know, you can't not eat and train. You know, the amount of hours that you were doing. But like you said, it was good that you tried, that you did it, that you proved to yourself, because you would have really learned a lot about yourself as a young person then, about who you were, what you were doing, because these are the life lessons that we're sent, aren't we? We have moments in life where we have to just sit down and be one with ourselves and figure it out and sort stuff out. And when we're young, we have to sort stuff out. You know, we've left home. We're determined to be grown up. It's determined to be an adult, and awesome that you're in the house that you bought from swimming, from your career, which I just love.
Those architraves, those wooden architraves, I nailed them in, stained them, you know, they're wood, and I've got wooden floors through half my house that my husband at the time and I laid, and they're still functional. They, like, you know, nothing's caved in, so that did pretty well, actually. I was pretty handy.
Well, you are pretty handy. I know that about you. You're good on the tools, bud. You know, it's I've been good on the tools myself. I know you're good on the tools, and it's important. For women, it's important for women to be able to support themselves and look after themselves. You know, you've got to know how to change a light globe. You know, you've got to know how to take a door off. Got to know how to paint. Got to know how to use. You know the difference between a Phillips head screwdriver and the other one. You know, and how to use it.
Allen's head.
Yeah, it's important. It's important.
What is it? Boys' names: Phillips head and Allen's head.
Because they're tools, aren't they? And that was an accident, but accidents are fun, aren't they?
That's straight to Facebook.
So for anybody from another country that's not listening, we have isms. We have things we say that are probably different to how you communicate in your country, because I've realised that Australians are different to others. You know, we're different to Americans. We're very forthright. We're very honest. And we call it taking the piss, which means we make fun of things. You know,
I love that. That is gold.
That worked well, didn't it? You know.
Hey, so how funny is it? This is also going to Facebook tonight, because my time. So yesterday, Sash and I were out walking around the lake near where we live, and I said, you know what? When I retire, we saw a lady with this beautiful camera, you know, and then we just before we'd seen this two swans with the baby swans and in the cygnets, and obviously she was down there to photograph them. And anyway, I said, you know, when I retire, I'm going to do all these courses. I'm going to do a photography course. I'm going to do some cooking classes. I definitely want to do Indonesian and Thai cooking classes, and I'm going to do a sewing class, and you know, and Sasha's like, you know, that's great, you know, that's great. So anyway, today we were at the hospital to see Sasha's mum, and Sasha's a male, for everyone that just this is how significant this part of the story is. And we're walking into the hospital, and he says, "Oh, I've worked out what class I want to do." And when I retire, I said, "Oh, what's that?" And he goes, "An antenatal and breastfeeding class." Just walked past the sign. I was like, "Oh, God!"
Oh, that's so
funny. So funny.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, wow. Now tell me, I know that you are, you're not just an ex-Olympian, you're a speaker, you're a motivational speaker, you're a coach. You too dabble in MC work like I do. We're not quite, neither of us is shy of having a microphone in our hands and having a chat when possible to the right people. And you're really into health, as I am. And I was introduced to you maybe that's where we met, I'm not sure, to redox signaling molecules. You want to have a little chat about maybe that's how. Doesn't really matter.
No.
I know
Anyway.
you took me out to lunch. You invited me to lunch, and at a time in my life that I couldn't afford to go out to lunch because I was incredibly broke. We drove, I think I met you halfway or something, I'm not quite sure. And that was when we just sat down and talked about all sorts of things and bonded, But I'll never forget, because part of who you are, you're an incredibly generous person. You're a top chick, but you're a really generous person and you have a really big heart. And that's something that I learned about you the very first time I met you. But I know that you're right into health, and you introduced me to things that I use now. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I, being the very competitive person that I am, I did a push-up challenge in the gym to see how many push-ups you could do in 3 minutes. 2 days later, I couldn't lift my arm above my head.
Let's say, how'd you go, mate?
Oh, because it's this lady beside me that was beating me. I was like, oh, man.
It's hard being a high achiever sometimes, isn't it?
Oh, I tell you. The challenges. And so I spent the next 8 months in extreme agony, done some nerve damage to my neck, and tried 3 different physios, acupuncturist, Bowen therapist, anytime someone said to me, Jules, go try this, that may help, I was there. And, I got to the point where I'd accidentally bump my arm or hand on something and I'd get this shooting pain in my neck and nearly pass out, and scream out. And there's a pain specialist on the other side of town, about an hour away, and Sasha took me to see her, and she'd been trialing this gel in her clinic. And she said to me, Jules, look, I don't know what it'll do. I'm just trialing it in my clinic. I'm looking for some testimonials though. Will you give it a go? And I said, oh, man, I'll try anything. So I got 6 tubes of this redox gel, and I used a tube a week because she said to me, smash it, use it like an addict. And so I used a tube a week for 6 weeks, and then had absolute full function back, no discomfort at all. And I was like, heck, this is good. And then Sasha, being a plasterer, he was like, oh, maybe I should give it a go. So he got 8 tubes and 8 weeks using a tube a week, and got rid of his bursitis and tennis and golfer's elbows. So for him, that was, I added up, and I spent between $3,500 to $4,000 on different treatments trying to get this better in 8 months. And, for $400, I was right, and I just was like mind blown. And so we, the beauty about it is that because I'm a real shocker when it comes to skincare, I'm very lazy. And the beauty about this, what I call my magic gel, is that it is anti-aging. So I just use that morning and night. And, some, like in our winters, we're pretty dry here. So sometimes, the winters I'll use our moisturizer and that. But, like I've got our beautiful serum sitting there, and I'm just, Suze, I'm lazy when it comes to skin. So for me, I love it. But, as it goes on everything. If I get bitten by a mosquito, it goes on there. If I burn myself on the stove, it goes on. That's why I call it my magic gel or my miracle gel, because it is, because it's identical to what our body produces. It can go on anything, and it can go anywhere your finger can go.
Yeah, look,
my favorite thing to say.
Amazing. I think it's amazing because I've used it as well. I've got a tube with me, 2 tubes, well, 1 now here. It's funny, where the water here is really dry, especially in Chichester. And for about a month, my thumbs were split open. This one particularly, it just kept splitting open, so much so that like the nail got infected. And I got my gel out and I put the gel on it, and within 2 days, I tried different things. It started to really heal.
Wow.
Whacking it on, and I'd sometimes put it under. I'd find the right band-aids to put it on, so it would just like soak in and soak in. And the funny thing was, I bought, because there's a liquid you can have as well, and I bought the liquid with me. Right, you're gonna love this. And I didn't put it in my luggage to go in the plane. I put it in my hand luggage, thinking that it was okay because it was sealed. Right, it's a sealed bottle. So I went to is it a liter or something? A big liter bottle, right? And I weighted everything, so it was fine. It was in my carry-on luggage because I wanted to sip it on the plane as it came over. No, they wouldn't let me, and a lot of the time when you go through customs, they're like, throw it out. I'm like, you're not throwing that out, it's $50. So they said, oh, well, you'll have to drink it. So I had to walk back through, and I stood there, and I downed the entire thing. And the funny thing was that the day before I left, I had started to lose my voice. And I hadn't lost my voice. I didn't have a sore throat. I didn't have any other symptoms. It was literally the day before I left, I lost the top register of my voice. I started losing my voice. And so I thought, I'm going to take the C with me because I'll just sip it and then I'll be right, So I down a whole litre in not very much time. Knocked it back and then had a bit of the burps afterwards. But and I thought, well, I'm just going to drink it all because there's no way it's going in the bin. I would have liked to have had it with me to sip. I ended up having, my voice didn't come back for a month. It was interesting because while I was here, it was the period of time where I was talking about sexual assault. And it was a period of time where I was being interviewed all over the world and talking about all this stuff. And yes, my voice sounded dead sexy and all that sort of stuff, but it was raspy and I could feel it and I could hear it, When I was at an expo and I was talking to lots of people, I thought, I'm going to lose
my dog out. Hang on.
I thought it's going to go, and I would have really liked to have.
This is your 15 seconds of fame around the world. There you go.
Darling. Snuggles with mummy. I miss my doggy Sunny. I have FaceTime with her, but it's not the same, I don't think she's being walked for as many times. Well, she's not being, no, she's not actually. She's not being walked as much as I used to walk her because Jack, my son's in, looking after her in the house and everything else. But it is what it is, It's good to kind of do something different. But the gel I use all the time, I use the gel on my face. It lasts for a really long time. Anytime I've ever had a cut, I'll whack the gel on straight away. Cut, burn, anything, whack it on and it'll be healed really quickly. It's quite amazing. I don't like the antibacterial creams like Savlons and things like that because I'm allergic to alcohol and there's a lot of alcohol in different things. And redox is the molecule. It's pure and there's no fragrance in it. It doesn't sting. It's got no alcohols in it. It's like safe as anything. You can, like I said, you can put it anywhere your finger goes. So, and I have put it places that my finger goes, to heal things, and it does heal things. So access all areas, which you don't have with lots of stuff. So we're talking about this now because I wanted to bring it up because it's a really powerful product. And when we do put the podcast out, we can put a little thing on the podcast of where to meet you. Another thing I found out about you, which also I'm really interested in, is you had some sort of allergy to chlorine. Or some sort of chlorine.
Yes.
Because
I had chlorine poisoning.
Chlorine poisoning. Because chlorine was pretty heavy duty back in the day, and you literally lived in it.
And
it
was
skin, obviously.
Yeah, 95. When I made my comeback, the pool I was training at had high levels of chlorine in it. It's a public pool, so they're dosing it up and. I started having, it started affecting my mind initially, and I was having these really bad thoughts, and was starting to get depressed, and I went to my doctor, and I was like, I cried, and it's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. He goes, you're depressed, and he goes, and he put you on antidepressants. I went, I don't think so. No, I'm not doing it. And then he goes, well, let's run some tests first. And so we did some tests, and my kidney and liver functions were through the roof. And he was like, okay, let's look at this further. There's something going on. And he did this test and he rang me up and he said, you need to get out of the water for 3 weeks. You've got chlorine poisoning. And that was the first time, so that was in 95. And it was the first time that someone had started talking to me about antioxidants and how antioxidants help with clearing out free radicals and damage, and I'm like, oh, this is really deep. So it was when I first started taking vitamins, and started, within 3 weeks I was able to get back in the water, but it was actually quite scary, and I've got a this I just put my little Julie, I'm not qualified as a doctor, but my own opinion, I think that chlorine poisoning is actually, in some cases, could be misdiagnosed for chronic fatigue in swimmers.
Right.
Because very similar symptoms. And I just wonder if the fatigue, because the fatigue part of it, I think maybe sometimes it's been misdiagnosed, and I don't know whether most doctors test if the kid comes in, they're tired and they're lethargic and they're flat, and they're testing their liver and kidney functions, and quite scary actually.
Would have been. I would have been. So did you? So you obviously, no, not obviously. So when you were training as a swimmer, were you not like? Did you not have dietitians and you're put on all sorts of? Because that didn't happen back then, did they? So you just eat mum and dad's food, were you?
Yes. And what was funny? Well, at that stage, I was living with my husband. I was married, and it was a big, it was the days where you had a big pasta meal before you swim, and all those sort of things. And dietitians and nutritionists, was really unheard of for us back then. I think, if you made an Australian team, I think a dietitian travelled with us, but I don't think we ever really saw them. There was one situation we experienced with a dietitian in 91 that didn't go well. Didn't give me a lot of faith in dietitians after that, but a good mate of mine is a nutritionist, and her wealth of knowledge just is mind blowing. So I love catching up with her and picking her brain, on lots of different things. So yeah, it's been amazing, and here's a great example. A lot of people don't know the difference between dietitian and nutritionist. I was telling my sister that my nutritionist had, I said to her, some mornings I'm hungry, because normally I fast, right? And I go, but some mornings I wake up and I'm hungry, and I don't eat bread in the house. I don't know what else I can have. What can I do? She goes, what about if you have overnight oats? I said, oh, that sounds exotic. What is that? And she said, well, you get oats and you put, teaspoon of cinnamon in, and you put a tablespoon of honey in, and you cover it with almond milk and you soak it overnight. And the next morning is this delicious breakfast. And I told my sister this, and I said, these overnight oats, you got to try them. She goes, oh, yeah, I did. I have. My dietitian has given me the overnight oats recipe, and she said, I'll send it to you. And it had biscuits in it. It had normal milk. It had, and I was like, it's got biscuits in it. What, are you kidding? It's a breakfast. And so I went to my nutritionist friend and I said, can you please explain to me the difference between nutritionists and dietitians? She said a dietitian will look at the amount of calories that you require for a day, so let's say 3,000, and they'll make up the food that is up to 3,000 calories for you. But a nutritionist will actually look at the nutritional value of the food at up to 3,000 calories. And I was like, that's the penny dropped, So it was not necessary. So, and that was a great example, like seeing this recipe that my sister had, and compared to my overnight oats, I was just like, oh my goodness. I said, I hope you're not.
Yeah, you're simple.
I couldn't believe it. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. And now, with so many people have access, like with online stuff, to actually get the correct nutritional information, to actually learn about what antioxidants are and free radicals in the body. We've now got a real shot at pro aging as we get older.
I know. And I got to tell you this. I got to tell you this. I got to tell you this because this is. I'm going to put my little. I don't have a massive ego, but I've got a healthy one, and I love it when people say I don't look my age. And today at the hospital, because mum we took up some redox for mum in the hospital and some of the gel and liquid and so if anyone pulls out the gel, it's straight on my face, And this woman's watching me, and she's like, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's just gel." And she said, "Oh, you just put it on your mother's leg, and now you're putting it on your face. Like, I don't understand." And I said, and so we explained to her what it was, and she was like, "Oh," she goes, "How old are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm 53," and she's like, "Oh, so it's anti-aging as well." I said, "Yes, it is." I know, right? Because I want to be, Suze, I love the fact that you've written this book, because I'm at that point, like I've just gone through menopause. I'm on the other side, and I'm like, and COVID did not help, but stacked on a few kilos that don't need to be there. And I was like, I want to be that fit 60, 70-year-old, 80-year-old that people go, wow, like, doesn't she look good for her age, and I thought it's now or never. And I think that it's never too late to change what you're doing, but it is, you have to get to that point where you make up that decision for yourself.
Yeah, you do. Thank you. Yeah, you do. You've got to make the decision. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to start habits, People talk to me like I'm an anti-Botox person. If you Botox in your body, good on you. It's just a Band-Aid, I always find it fascinating that women have the Botox in their face and then from here down they just look like a wrinkled old prune, and their hands are all wrinkled, Nothing against wrinkled old prunes. But if they drank more water, just water, filtered water, and they drank at least 2 liters of water a day, the vertical lines that they see in their face, and when you get older, sometimes all of a sudden you wake up, you're like, oh my God, I've got wrinkles on my arms, or my knees are wrinkled. How did that happen? It's because we have to moisturize our bodies from the inside and the outside, And I always tell people, get a schooner, which has got 500 mils, right? So half a litre of water. If you down one of those first thing in the morning, before you have your cup of tea, before you have your coffee, you've only got another 3 to go just to reach that.
And you know that doing that actually activates your kidneys. And if you get some Celtic sea salt, right, not your white table salt, not even your pink Himalayan, some Celtic sea salt, and you put just 1 grain on your tongue as you have that water, it actually will help your body absorb that water better and hydrate your cells.
Great tip. Love that. Love that. And drinking that, I can guarantee people that, because your cells take a few weeks to, turn over. If you do that for a month, all those vertical lines on your face and your arms and your legs, they'll disappear. They'll go. Because you're putting, we're what, 90% water or 80% water or something ridiculous. And we get slack.
You've got to drink good water.
You got to drink water.
Yeah. Filtered water, good water,
Yeah, exactly. Drink the good water. Like, hear the water out of the tap. My cousin has this really nice little jug that filters the water, because I did notice it's hard water here. In this place where I am. So you get out of the shower and your skin actually looks dry, and it feels dry, and it's like, wow, because we have soft water. We have quite good water in Australia and in Queensland, and we can drink it out of the tap and all that sort of stuff. Even though I have this beautiful big filtered machine in my kitchen, but here I really noticed it. It was almost like white, this coating, and I'm like, far out, which is why my fingers started splitting open. Because of the water I was drinking and having a shower and stuff. So I was really aware of that and aware of teaching people that. And then I went and stayed in another part of England for a week, which is like 6 hours away from here, and the water there is different. It was soft, so you could quite literally down it out of the tap, and it tasted different. And you get out of the shower and you don't have this kind of white, dryish coating on your skin. So it's all, you've got to be aware, don't you, of your surroundings and what you're putting in your body. And it took me a while. I used to be really slack, I didn't drink lots of water. And then I started, I did, my arms started wrinkling. And I was like, I've always had really good skin, and I've always looked after my skin, and never go to bed with your makeup on, never go to bed with mascara on. There's things that should be a habit, and getting into the habit of just drinking the water. I'm going to go and get some Celtic sea salt today. It will keep it doesn't just make you look good, around your joints that sometimes can start aching as you get older, that you're moisturizing all the synovial things and tendons and everything that hold your bones together. So your body is going to work better. You have less aches and pains when you drink more water. So the more hydrated we are, the better our body actually functions. And that's not to mention the antioxidants and the things that we should take. And,
Yeah. But you know what's interesting? Sasha's mum, she doesn't taste drinking water. My dad, I say to my dad, I can't believe you're still alive. You're 86. You don't drink water, except for the cups of tea that he drinks. And it'll be really interesting to see our generation, and how different we'll be as we age, because we were brought up drinking like a lot of water. Like you can drink too much water. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, you can.
But we know a lot more now, but we're still learning. So, Sasha was the one that told me about the difference between, I knew table salt was not good for you, but it's because that is it's what they make initially. It's just got sodium and chloride in it, whereas the Celtic sea salt has 98 minerals in it. So that's why it's so important, and, I love learning stuff like that. I love learning.
We're living longer. Each generation is living longer. Each generation is taller, bigger, healthier. Like the women in my family live to a ripe old age, like halfway through their 90s or to the end of their 90s. Last time I checked, and my mother is not in my life, but she's 83 and she still teaches tap dancing twice a week. So, I like, all power to you, love, really. The fact that you're still teaching tap, and tap's pretty physical and full on. But I was raised with fitness. I was raised with two parents that are really fit. My dad had a home gym. He would train with me when I was younger. So when he was in his 40s, he was keeping up with me, if not more. So he was really physically fit and stayed physically fit. His whole life, and would always, say, don't drink milk and don't eat bread. Stop eating the bread and stop drinking the milk. It's like, okay, Dad. But I believe, I say to people, I'm going to live till I'm 110. And I figure if my great aunts, so my grandmother's sisters, lived to halfway through in their 90s, all of them, with pretty much most of their mental faculties, then, and my mother's still tapping at 83, why should I not live to 110 with the knowledge that we have now, the nutrients that we put in our body. But like you said, people get slack. We only have one body. We only have this vessel. If and I eat chocolate, I eat crap sometimes, I can have all day of that, right, if I'm going to do it, I'm really commit to it. I'm going to get as much junk into me as possible, and then I'll be good after that. But we have to make an effort, because, cheap food is crap, and sometimes takeaway food is cheaper, so we can afford it. But it's about making the effort and having the determination and the mindset to really nurture ourselves as we get older and look after the body that we have. My favourite saying is move it or lose it. If you're not doing anything, go for a walk.
I'll tell you what, that is so true, because, I have noticed that, like when I'm getting back into the gym and doing things, it's no, I've just gone back to my physio because I knew that I was a bit out of whack. My body was a bit out of whack, and I wanted to go back and get my body put back into the right way before I started doing any sort of major exercise because obviously that was just going to be pointless. And it was really interesting, that I had a car accident 9 years ago, and whilst I had no discomfort, I couldn't raise my arm above my head like that, without like sort of like an ache type thing, and it just never went. And it's this side actually, but puppy is leaning on this arm, so and my shoulder was out of whack, and I said to the physio, I want you to work on my shoulder. It's just never been the same since the car accident. So she went through, how did the car accident happen, blah blah. Anyway, she goes, oh, no wonder your body's a bit twisted, and I didn't know. And I said to Mum today, I said, oh, I can get my arms straight up here. I said, oh, I can't wait to get in on Monday and start, doing all my work. And yeah, so it's really important for us to see these professionals and find a good physio or a good chiropractor, or, whatever you prefer. But combination of two is really good because one's muscular, one's skeletal, and get your body right before you start the journey of exercising, because there's no point going and doing exercising if your hips are out or your back is out, or you're just going to do more damage. So I think that's really important as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big fan of chiropractic. I'll see a chiropractor once a week, once a fortnight, just for a tune-up and massage. I always have massage. I used to work as a massage therapist in my 20s because I was strong. I had a shoulder reconstruction from being a swimmer. Actually, they called it a stabilization when I was, there's a chipmunk sitting on the fence outside. How fun. Yeah. Just got a little bit of sidetracked then by a little fairy creature sitting on a fence under a tree. So I had to make my arm work. Yeah, it's really cute.
We had kookaburras come down this afternoon, our magpies, for a feed.
Nice. No, yeah, you have lots of birds there, don't you? So, and it's important. I've met people who have never had a massage in their life, and I'm like gobsmacked that they, and they're like, oh, this is painful. I think if you actually just maintained your body, released some of the stress in the body, released your muscles, because like you said, it's skeletal and it's muscular. And if everything, you'll feel better than you've ever felt in your entire life. Make your body work to its optimum. I had a bad time going through menopause. I fractured a bone because I fractured one of my knees, got a starburst fracture in my knees. I missed the flip thing on a chair at my son's concert. And squatted a bit too hard, and I'd been squatting. I was really fit, and it's because the hormones kind of leached out of my bones. Then they put me on HRT, and that really wasn't really good. So for 16 months in my 50s, I was on crutches on and off for 16 months, couldn't walk upstairs. I lost all the small muscle tone in my hips. I went from being super fit to literally having to bum it up the stairs to bed every night. There was one stage that I literally lay on the bed for 2 weeks because I was in so much pain. Last time I came here, I was in 2014, and I was like 51 or something for the trial that I was part of. I was in agony on the plane. I couldn't sit for long periods of time. I had this kind of aspirin cream that I was just rubbing into my bum every chance I could, just to kind of numb it, to be able to keep walking. So it's so important. Sometimes we go through periods of time in our bodies where it's just our bodies kind of stop, and we've got to really work on our physical fitness, the nutrients that are going into our body. We've got to figure out what's going wrong to make it right again. I found out that the pills that they'd put me on, whilst I was, Googling myself, while I was over here, got addicted to that. Who's saying bad things about me? And I found out the small print of the pills that I kind of remember that I was on. One of the side effects that was that you could lose all the small muscle tone in your hips, and that's exactly what had happened to me. So I figured the girlfriend that I was with, she was perimenopausal, and I thought, you've known me for 30 years. If I get really ratty, you're going to love me anyway. So I stopped taking them. It took about 3 months for the medication to get out of my system. As soon as that happened, I was back to normal again. I could walk again with no pain.
Wow.
Really did set me on this path of really looking after my body, and it was part of one of the big reasons why I wrote my book 60 is the New 40, and wrote a lot about menopause to advise women, because we all have a different journey. Everybody's journey is unique. Mine kind of was, I was like on steroids in my journey, because it was at times and incredibly painful, and I'd lose my brain as well as my body. But it was all, and Don, my husband at the time, he researched amino acids and nutrients, and he had me on this whole regime of aminos and pills and all this sort of stuff, if I could only remember to take them. To really, really pump the nutrients in my body, because my blood test showed that I was really not good, you know. The lady that I went and saw at the time, she said to me, "So, Suzi, you've actually been surviving on the brute force of your personality." And I sat there and went, "Yeah, that sounds like me." You know? And we just keep, those women and men we often, we just keep pushing through life. We just keep pushing, we just keep going, we get up and we go, "Oh, yeah, I'll just keep going." But nutrition is so important, and health is so important. If we look after our health and longevity and really make the effort to do it and get into the habits of doing everything every day, then we will work. Why can't we live to 110 and look fabulous while we do it, and have our brain? Because when you're drinking water, back to that, you're moisturising your brain as well, because when you don't drink much water, your brain starts to shrink. And as you get older, your brain starts to shrink. So, you know.
Once you turn 80.
There you go. So by the time we're 80, babe, we're going to be setting the standard.
So hydrated.
So hydrated. We'll be running rings around the 40-year-olds. They'll be just like, I want to be you when I grow up. And we're like, yeah, no problem. Come to my seminar, do my course, my coaching program, and you too will get here in 40 years' time. Hey, so tell us what you're doing now, Julie, so to wrap up our little chat, because you and I could sit here for ages and talk.
I know, right? So,
your future.
Because I lost my business during COVID of my emceeing and speaking, I went and did a coaching certification and 4 hypnotherapy certifications. So I qualified myself as a coach, even though I've been doing it all my life. Thought I'd better get a piece of paper, because I thought I'd better get a piece of paper. And that went well for me. And I'm not sure I learned a lot more than what I already knew, but the hypnotherapy part I just loved. I cured myself of my fear of heights during my courses, which was exciting. And so that's sort of started on that. But also at the same, just as I was finishing those courses, a mate of mine asked me to come and help him work in his business, because he and I used to work together in air conditioning 15 years ago, and he runs his own air conditioning company. So I am now doing a little bit of work with that, but the goal is to get back and doing my coaching and hypnotherapy and do that for the rest of my life.
Awesome. That sounds awesome. Did the piece of paper?
I'm not sure it did that much. But, if people want to see it, like, I have a piece of paper and it's somewhere here. I don't know.
Do you keep your medals around there somewhere? Do you keep them hanging tucked away?
I don't keep my medals hanging anywhere. Rockies.
I'm nothing but dust, really, isn't it?
I do have the Commonwealth Games baton.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's cool.
And the Olympic torch replica. Oh, that's a genuine one. That's what I ran with. And this one here is a replica of the 56 Olympics, which was one of my jobs back in 2000, was fundraising for the Olympics, and my job was to sell replicas of those. So, I keep those kind of things, but the medals are locked away.
Yeah. Look, before you go, tell us because I love calling you OAM, and I love putting it after your name, because it's a really big deal. And I've never met anybody who has an Order of Australia medal. What was that like, and how did that come about?
So you have to be nominated to get the award, and I was, at the time, I was doing drug education for the Australian Olympic Committee, and so we'd go around to a lot of up-and-coming, sports clubs or institutes, and go and talk to the kids about the importance of, staying away from drugs and how they can affect you. and I had done a lot of fundraising for charities. So the award, it was given for my services to sport, fundraising for charities, and for the efforts with the drug education with the Australian Olympic Committee. So I was, and I received it from Dame Edna Bryce. Not Dame Edna Bryce, my goodness, Dame Quentin Bryce. I was thinking Dame Edna.
Yeah, no, I got you. I was with you, mate.
God love her. God rest in peace. So Dame Quentin Bryce, and she is just a delight. I swam with her son, so the fact that I got it from her was even more special. And it was a real honour, you know. And for years I never really used it or wore my badge or and then my son said to me one day, Mum, you should, you know, you received this award, you should really use, you know, your OAM. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll start using it. And because there's a million Julie Macdonalds around. And so it's a good way to identify myself. But also, and then a number of years ago, the Olympic Committee actually registered the letters OLY as genuine letters that you can put at the end of your name. So now I have more letters at the end of my name than a doctor.
I love it. That's great. What does OLY stand for?
Olympian.
Oh, okay. Got it. So can
and I was like, I am not putting that many letters behind my name.
OAM, which goes first?
Oh, yeah. Not happening.
I love it. It's great. I love that. I love that we've had such an amazing chat. It's been great.
Fun.
So much. I know everybody's going to really enjoy listening to you. Well, I'm sure everybody has enjoyed really listening to Julie and meeting Julie. Julie and I could talk for ages. Oh, so now I know that you've cured your fear of heights. One of my favourite rides in surface is, because I like adrenaline rides, is the slingshot bungee, mate. So you and me, I'm going to take you on the sling.
Yeah, okay. We'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I
won't bungee because I'm terrified of what's going to do that to your body. But I'll slingshot. Yeah, that'd be all right.
Slingshot bungee is really fun and it's not really high. I've done bungee. I did bungee in Cairns in the really, really high one that you walk up. And I've also jumped out of a plane, strapped to a really good looking man that wanted to leave to the plane though. So, but I don't ever do. I like to do things once, so it's done. I don't necessarily. Yeah. And I did that before I'd had a child. And it's funny, after you've had a child, you kind of change.
Yes.
I'm proud of a plane. No, because I've done it. It's huge adrenaline hit. But no. And it doesn't matter that he's in his 20s now. It's still no. So you're telling me date slingshot bungee when I get home.
Okay, sounds good.
So
all right, thank you so much.
For joining us, and we'll talk soon. Thanks everyone for joining us on Empowered Expression, and we will see you again later. Sort of.